Yes, sir. I was real familiar with the Federal Bureau of the Murrah building because prior to being in the K-9 unit, I was in the motor patrol. If we had dignitary coming into town, such as the president or vice president, we would meet with the Secret Service there in the Murrah building and go over that itinerary. But was in and around that building frequently and saw the cameras that were mounted both on the north and south side, and particularly on the corners of the building. The morning of the bombing, when we were sequestered there in the courtyard, there were FBI agents or men in FBI raid jackets that brought a ladder around, and they were removing not only the cameras and the housings, but actually the wire from the corners of the building and taking cameras down.
So to make it appear like there were no cameras there, or just to take the whole unit out?
At the time, I thought they were, I didn't, of course, wasn't really thinking. I was assuming they were just securing evidence. I never dreamed that it would come up to the point that, no, they never existed. But,
so, as an afterthought, it may have even been like they were trying to conceal evidence.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In fact, one of our witnesses, Mike Nations, who lived in the Regency Tower, he observed a couple days or a week before the bombing, Tim McVeigh at a phone booth with another man, a John Doe number 2. Mike went to the FBI and told them about this. Their response was to go down and remove the phone booth from that corner. They actually took out the phone booth in response to Mike saying, I saw McVeigh there. I'm 100% sure it was him, and he had a partner.
Wow. And so now, if the phone booth doesn't exist, the story doesn't have any corroboration.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. There's also reports of the horse patrols being mobilized. Did you actually see this, Don, when you were on site?
No, sir. I saw them on site in talking with friends that was in because we officed together between the K-9 and the Equine units. We officed in the same building. I was curious how they had gotten there so soon because they form up with the reserve deputy program and respond as a mutual aid type thing to larger events. And they were all down there that morning. Later, when I actually had a chance to talk, I was curious as to why they came down. And we were just coming down for the day just to work the downtown area, which was not normal for them. They did not form up unless there was a special event. They did not have especially the reserve deputies. Those guys had other jobs besides law enforcement, and they were donating their time. So it was kind of ironic that they were all down there together that morning to do nothing but just ride around downtown Oklahoma City.
Right. Did you ever provide testimony to a grand jury or any investigators, or were you even called as a witness at any point?
Yes, sir. Did go to the grand jury twice, and then testified against McVeigh and Nichols, both in Denver.
Mm-hmm. And what exactly did you testify against Nichols about?
Primarily, it was just the aftermath of the bombing itself. And same with McVeigh. Okay.
So you never actually saw Timothy McVeigh at the Murrah building?
No, sir. No, sir.
Well, let's get into the FBI threats. You said they came up and threatened you personally on several occasions. Why don't you describe that for the audience out there who's watching?
Yes, sir. At one point, probably 4 to 6 weeks after the actual recovery effort had ended, they set up a mobile communication post, the FBI did, at our K-9 Equine Center. They were using our facility pretty frequently, both between the offices and the trailer they had set up. It was not uncommon for one of the newer agents to come through the hallway, and I would be pointed out by one of the other agents that, yeah, that's him there, that's Browning. And then as they were there, in passing in the hallway, I would be told by 1 or 2 different agents that I need to be careful that people like my wife and I ended up dead.
That's incredible. Holland, what's your response to that?
Well, Well, outrage, honestly. This is the FBI. These are federal investigators. They're supposed to be trying to solve the greatest mass murder at that time in American history. But what they do spend time doing is threatening local police officers, threatening their families' lives. And this tells you what their mission, their mission was not to solve the case. Their mission was to cover up what actually happened. It was not to bring those who were responsible to justice. And to do so, to preserve their own position, they're threatening good men's lives and their family. That tells you the nature of what is going on here.
And let's just go over some of their evidence cover-up that you guys go over in the movie. Just, you know, let's go over a laundry list. What did the FBI do to really thwart the investigation?
Well, obviously the videotapes. The videotapes recorded everything that happened. There were dozens, hundreds. In fact, we interview the man who duplicated the tapes on order from the FBI. He wasn't allowed to view the footage. They would wheel it in on dollies. 2 armed agents would watch while he put the tapes in and duplicate them, and he was not allowed to watch them. Then those armed agents would wheel the tapes out at the end of the day and take them back to the office. This lasted 2 to 3 weeks of 8 9-hour days of recording videotapes. Obviously, a lot or most of those tapes have nothing, but some of them have something, and some of them recorded what exactly happened in front of the Murrah building. Don is talking about the FBI taking down the tapes during the evacuations while people are bleeding to death inside. They're taking down the tapes, and now they claim the tapes don't exist, or that they can't find them. They can't find the tapes, or that the ones that they can find cannot be released due to national security. What is the threat to national security to find out exactly what happened at the Murrah building, despite the fact what it would cause is a case of national insecurity. If people knew from day one that the federal government knew there were more people involved and lied about it, the people would be outraged. They cannot allow that to get out.
Yeah, national security at this point should not be an excuse because, well, they supposedly killed Tim McVeigh. Terry Nichols is in jail. Those were the only 2 guys involved, according to the official story. So what would be the harm? You know, that's usually the icing on the cake. They always come out with the tape later after the case is done. Here's all the tapes. Here's what they show. And there was even an investigation at one point. I remember watching an old news clip where they interviewed people who had saw tapes, and they were talking about John Doe number 2 that supposedly didn't exist after a 2-day manhunt.
Yes, the several FBI offices were leaking information to the media that they had seen the tapes, that there were other people involved. But as the story became managed, that information was shut off, and we were never allowed to see the tapes. I mean, we almost every day have to watch airliners crashing into the Twin Towers. Almost every day have to see that. How come we can't see what happened in front of the Murrah building? Right.
Well, the same reason why you can't see what happened in front of the Pentagon, except for 2 frames.
Yeah.
Don, did you participate in the manhunt for John Doe number 2 that ended up being called off?
No, sir, other than I think what was confusing to me at first was when they first started putting out the descriptions, in particularly that first day, descriptions that they gave us and was broadcast to all law enforcement in a 5-state area, they later told us was disinformation, and it was only to throw the press off. Again, you're hampering all law enforcement in that big a quadrant of the United States.
Going after a wild goose chase, essentially.
Going after an intentional wild goose chase.
Sure.
Well, that information that led to that original witness description was from local PD.
Yeah.
And those were the suspects. And as the federal government came in and took control of the investigation, that description, they labeled it disinformation so people would stop following it. Those actually were the suspects. They were seen running from the scene, getting into a brown pickup truck, speeding from the scene. One car was en route to Dallas, those people were arrested with bomb-making material in Dallas. They were let go. I mean, it's just, the story does not hold up to scrutiny whatsoever. The official story of the Oklahoma City bombing is a complete whitewash and does not hold up to the weight of evidence whatsoever.
Right. Well, Holland, the film's been out less than a month now. What kind of reaction are you guys getting from other people, filmmakers? You know, what are the plans for this film, A Noble Lie?
Well, the reaction we're getting is stunned disbelief that all of this could happen right under our noses, and the media and the government does not tell us about it. A lot of people who knew some funny things about the bombing, they knew a couple things were wrong, but they were not aware of the weight of evidence and how documented it was that the official story is wrong and is a lie. They were stunned by the quality of information. We've shown this to skeptics. We've shown this to people who, think I'm crazy, and they walk away and they're like, the government did it. I was like, yeah. And now we're not saying that the government did it. What we're saying is that they knew it was going down. That is obvious. They knew McVeigh was going to do it. They watched it happen. For some reason, they didn't stop it. And the cover-up after that, it's not that every street agent, every FBI agent on the scene is like trying to cover up government complicity. It was their truck. It was their informant. It was their bomb. How are they going to explain to the American people that something went wrong and their truck, their bomb, and their informant killed 168 people? They were in the agency.
Right. And since then, every FBI entrapped bomb maker or bomb plotter, they've been given deliberately fake bombs, we've seen, or bombs that wouldn't work, or they get stopped before it even comes to fruition. I remember seeing an article about the guy with the remote control bomb, but he was getting it from the FBI and the informant. You know, they were providing him the materials to create this remote-controlled airplane bomb. And, you know, did you see that story? Do you have any comments on that?
Oh, yes. When you're looking at the last couple of years, all these FBI sting operations on terrorist operations, what usually happens is it's like an unemployed drifter. He gets on a jihadi website and he starts talking trash about the U.S. government. Mm-hmm. And then someone approaches him and they start cultivating a relationship. Well, that person obviously is an FBI undercover informant or an agent trying to cultivate this disgruntled loner. And then they give him a job. They brainwash him into wanting to bomb something in the United States. They tell him to do it. They give him fake bombs. Then they give him the cell phone to set it off. Then they arrest him. And that's obviously his entrapment. If the FBI had left these people alone, they'd still be working at McDonald's. That's all they'd be doing. They wouldn't be trying to bomb things. But the danger of that is, if they ever try to make this go live again, all they have to do is take one of these existing sting operations. They're going on right now all over the country. It's like every 2 weeks they arrest someone for trying to bomb something. These operations are going off all the time. For an operation to go live, all they have to do next time, instead of fake explosives, put in real ones.
And then let it happen.
And let it happen.
Yeah.